Thanks again for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Our focus today is the fact that within basically a week, a number of data points opened up about the semi and what's going on with Pepsi, and it's sort of a blueprint on what we could probably expect going forward for how the Tesla semi will roll out. The first thing that popped up is that some photos emerged of both the charging facilities as well as the Pepsi version of the semi. As you saw in the opening photo, colors are matching. It's a nice wrap, and they're referencing the fact that it's an electric circumstance. Now, I was, there are a number of other points that were shared by the folks at Pepsi. Number one, they've already gotten 39 trucks, and so we should see that revenue showing up. Number two is that they expect to receive their full 100 allocation of trucks that were part of the initial batch that they reserved, and they expect that to happen in 2023. Number three is that they sort of described what's currently going on when it comes to sort of range with the trucks they currently have that they've been testing for almost a year. Just a reminder, please take time to like and subscribe. Please also join us on Patreon for some ideas on investing and trading, both Tesla and other entities. And to continue, the folks at Pepsi also pointed out that they've been testing both with both chips and, in essence, water. The water truck, they're saying, is good for 100 miles. And in the case of the trucks that are pulling chips, which you have to say is about at least 50% air, maybe 60, they're getting a full 424 miles with still 24% of the charge left. This particular point leaves some questions out there as to, why they're not getting the full 500 miles. But if you think about it, 100 miles isn't that bad, given that that truck will go on the same route every day. And in theory, you could strategically place charging at destinations if, in fact, that's the experience number that they're getting from range. So in general, these are the items that have been covered by Pepsi relative to their experience with the semi. The next thing that we wanted to look at is sort of a general look at what's going on with the semi and the process that's being used by, in essence, the first customer to receive it. Now, the location that we're seeing that they've chosen, which is Sacramento, is strange on one hand, but you could argue it makes sense. The first part of the makes sense is the fact that that vehicle sits very close to the Mount Sierra mountains that go as high as 13,000 feet. So to have the vehicles operating in those cold temperatures and high elevations is a great opportunity to put the vehicle to the test. That way, all the conditions that other locations might experience will be covered by the knowledge gained on these vehicles being implemented where they are. The other issue that pops up is that based on the success they're having with chips and the fact that there's actually another location for chip manufacturing in a place called Rancho Cucamonga, California, I kind of expected that they would just roll out a number of trucks that are moving chips and then move on to issues like moving water as a secondary. In this case, they're choosing to split the 39 trucks, 21 at one location, and then the remainder, 21 at the Modesto location and the remainder at the Sacramento location. Another reason why I'm surprised by how they're doing this is the fact that there is pollution in Northern California, that is Modesto and north through Sacramento. But the problem with the use of these trucks in that area is that Southern California's pollution is twice, if not three times as bad as Northern California, particularly because the population isn't as dense, and also because one of the biggest sources of pollution is large trucks that are bringing freight in off the docks, mostly from China, that are being stored in warehouses in what's called the Inland Empire, or the area, 50 to 75 miles in from the port prior to being shipped to their final destinations. So it was my expectation that we would see implementations from Tesla on the front end with the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach that allows them to get after this pollution problem in Southern California, as well as the noise associated with the trucks that are coming off of that dock. I'm confident we'll see that happening in the not too distant future, but a little surprised that we're not seeing it currently with the implementation that's going on with the Pepsi customer. Now, the next thing that pops the question mark lane is Pepsi has articulated that they're going to take their full complement of 100. And I guess a question pops up, which is, it's great that they're, in essence, running, call it 39 trucks across 6 charging facilities at 2 locations. I think that's good news. The question mark then becomes, to what extent are they going to leverage what's learned in these 2 facilities to expand their fleet with more electric vehicles at other locations? At this point, we'd have to say they haven't announced anything from it, but if the numbers operate as Tesla has described, and they're able to have the vehicle over a long distance of time, i.e. 1 million miles, I think there's every reason to suggest that, give them some time to collect real data, and they can share that data with their other bottlers to validate the transition more heavily towards sort of the electric process that Tesla is implementing. So I thought there might be one fly in the ointment, because I actually know a bottler for Pepsi that's based in the Midwest, and they sort of have the rights to 4 states and run, the trucking however they'd like. I definitely think they would save money with Tesla, but, there was a period 10 or 15 years ago where Pepsi actually went into a process of buying back as many bottlers as they could, allowing them to control things like shipping in this case, and other aspects of the company they couldn't control when it was a separate operating firm. So my guess would be at least half of the sort of implementations of vehicles in the country come from Pepsi operating its own bottling plants and then being able to make transition to new vehicles as these vehicles come out. I guess one of the biggest surprises of what we learned from Pepsi was the fact that there had been a decision made that they were going to buy, the first 100 vehicles outright and not pursue the normal process of leasing, where you might lease a vehicle for 3 to 5 years, run it up into that 100,000 to 200,000 miles, and then keep cycling the tractors out in that manner, with the trailers lasting, or being used for a lot longer period of time. It seems as though Tesla's offering the 1 million mile guarantee in terms of repair has prompted a recalculation to ownership being a better option than leasing, and we'll see how all this plays out. So in general, the fact that Pepsi has not decided to pass on the remainder of trucks is a good thing. In general, the fact that they're seeing the performance parameters that are appealing enough to finish out their first 100 and then sort of see where they go from there, also a good thing. And I think a great thing for the planet, given the amount of pollution coming from vehicles that routinely make deliveries every day, pushing all that diesel into the air. So congrats to Pepsi, congrats to Tesla. We look forward to seeing more of how this implementation is going to occur. The only other thing that I would point out is that, there are clues when Tesla's going to put in charging facilities related to new customers, but it's hard to track that data when it's inside of the corporate facilities of these entities without somebody tipping you off or something of that ilk. So based on how Pepsi is rolling out, I expect us to start running into both the semi and new implementations very soon and on a regular basis as Elon rolls towards the 50,000 units sold in 2024. Any rate, wanted to thank you for joining us on the semi update front. We look forward to your comments. Next, we'd like to review our health tip. Just a reminder, on a daily basis, our physical therapist, Doc, has recommended that you stand up, put your hands on the small of your back, both left and right, and do a gentle backward bend at least 10 times and 3 to 4 times a day, because it'll help give you back relief from potential pain. And it's a reflection of the fact that most people sit bending forward, as well as when you're sleeping, most people are sleeping in a fetal position, and that tends to affect your back in a sort of non-healthy way. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German au revoir, French lehithro, Hebrew hoda hafez, Farsi stara, suche Russian ni hao ma, Chinese hambawa, Japanese heido, our friends in Sweden, good day, our friends in Australia, arrivederci, Italian, and in Jamaica we say enough respect, wa goodman, namaste.